questions him with something that almost exposed his secret to the world.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Like, okay. This ain't raised no alarms. This ain't, you know what I'm saying? This ain't raised no alarms, my nigga. She just said it. I got to get my wrist right now. Alright.
A murder that has become one of the most discussed crime cases of recent times is that of David Anthony Burke, who went by the stage name David. David was at the peak of his career. He dropped a high-charting debut album, he had millions of social media followers, and was significantly wealthy for a man only 20 years old. However, in September of 2025,
Joe like that again, nigga, now I'll banish you for life.
Detectives discovered the body of a 14-year-old girl that had been missing for months, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, in the trunk of his Tesla, decomposed, dismembered, and abandoned. And for months, people debated on whether they believed that this innocent-looking, clean-shaven young man with a melodic voice could do the things he'd been accused of. But now that David has been arrested for murder, and the prosecution have documented their evidence, the likelihood that this was some sort of setup has been significantly reduced. It became evidence that David had a physical relationship with Celeste while she was still a child, and when they broke up and she allegedly threatened to expose the relationship to ruin his career.
But not only is this man a murderer, but he's also a freaking pedophile.
The prosecution believed he took matters into his own hands to protect what he'd built. But when you add the context that he made music constantly that included themes of blood, violence, and a romance that ends in tragedy, it's caused a lot of people to suspect that this outcome was something David always wanted. However, I'm not here to discuss theory and conspiracy. I'm here to clinically answer two main overarching questions. How did David's life engineer him to become someone capable of potentially murdering and dismembering a child? And if he did, then what mental mechanisms allowed him to carry on with life after the fact, knowing the body of the girl he was once intimate with was decomposing in his car?
Nah, in prison, they don't even, in the back of my mind, yeah, that song. They're not even gonna let him be around people. He's like gonna be isolated for like the rest of his life, and like have like 3 hours a week to be outside, and like two showers a week. That's his conditions, bro.
It's easy to just label him as pure evil and move on. But as a student of psychology, I find it crucial that we understand what happened to him in childhood, what were the warning signs, and figure out the why that surely exists in this story. There's a lot of questions I've seen online that I think I have the ability to answer by the end of this video. Answers that will give you a genuine understanding into the mind and psychology of David Anthony Burke.
I played it for her in the car. She was like, "David, this song is too violent. You talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son." I was like, wait, I might be onto something.
Rolling Loud posting that. Yeah, I told you. Hiding in the bathroom at work right now. I should be still on while you.
Let's start from the beginning. So, you're a New Yorker.
New Yorker, Queens, New York.
What are your parents like? Are they musicians?
Not at all. My dad is a litigator for a law firm. My mother was a teacher. She doesn't do it anymore, but she does notary now.
David Anthony Burke was born in Queens, New York, to Colleen and Dawood Burke, two Christian parents that seemingly would give him a tough and controlled upbringing.
Everything we played in the house, music-wise, was just Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, gospel music, like classical stuff.
Not gonna lie, bro. See, a nigga listening to Mozart can be up to no good. Nigga, real niggas listening to Osama son, you know? And they talking about Mozart. Okay.
Instrumentals only. Like, we didn't listen to any other music. There was no like Lady Gaga and all the popular artists everybody was listening to. We never could listen to that because my parents just wouldn't let us. It was just like straight classical stuff.
It was literally nothing. It was all gospel and like classical, Mozart, Bach, like all that type of stuff. Because my parents wanted me to be really smart. They never like talked about college or anything like that, but they always wanted me to be very intellectual, very put together, have an idea what I'm doing. But they never. His music was trash. Nah, it was. To music like that at all.
Trying to control what your kids listen to and the content they consume isn't necessarily harmful in and of itself.
Sucks,
but if a kid is going to school and has no level of cultural relatability, it can cause feelings of being excluded,
that boy went Abdul High Top.
In turn affects his socialization. If everyone got to access music and it became a point of discussion he couldn't involve himself in, it might have led to feelings of envy And instead of David accepting this, he tried to find a way around it.
Did your parents put sort of a cap on what you could and couldn't listen to in the house?
I was sneaking around.
It wasn't like that.
I had this little iPod. I used to sneak. I got it with me right now, too. I still got these. I used to sneak around.
Man, I would have bullied this little nigga, too. You painting his nails as a young little sissy nigga, bro. I would have yoked this nigga up every day.
The iPod Touch. I used to sneak around with the iPod Touch and download things off iTunes and stuff like that.
The sneaking around his parents like this is consistent with reactance theory, proposed by Jack Brem in 1966. When perceived behavioral freedom is restricted, individuals are motivated to reclaim it. In these situations, the forbidden fruit, which for David would have been music, becomes more desirable, and the individual tries to acquire it by any means, even if it includes secrecy. Now, it's not the behavior itself that's necessarily significant, but the pattern it establishes, that authority is to be managed through concealment rather than confronted directly. This pattern would then reoccur later for his adult life. It didn't help David that his private school life in New York also consisted of bullying and teachers picking on him, so he had an uneasy time both at school and at home.
I hated New York at that point.
Since it's summertime now, I can now pay you for thumbnails, bro. Okay?
Like,
why did you
I didn't
hate
like
it?
my school. I was at a private school, and they treated me so horribly, dude.
Why?
It was insane. I don't know. All the teachers had it out for me. My little brother could testify to that too.
So was the villain?
Dude, they just had it out for me all the time.
Accepting.
I don't know what it was. I would just do nothing to nobody, and the teachers would just
dork
pick on
not
me
try
and
to
bully
accept
me
money.
for
I
no
love
reason.
you, bro.
I wanted to leave that place so bad.
And he got his wish as they moved to Houston, Texas, and he found it slightly better at his new school. But he was a kid that didn't really seem to find
I need a thumbnail for this
stuck.
video. I'm gonna send it to you on Discord because this is good reacts.
His parents tried to get him into music,
I got
but it
you,
wasn't stimulating enough
Lemire.
for him at
So
that
you gonna
time.
pay me? What
She
you gonna
put
do
me
for
in piano lessons when I was 7.
Nothing.
And then I quit that after a week. She was like, okay, I'm not gonna pay for it if you don't like it. Quit that. I went into she put me in a church choir when I was 8. Quit that. And then I was in middle school band when I was in 7th grade. I played the flute, and I quit that.
But he never developed into a conventionally social child. He describes himself as a people watcher rather than a member of a friend group,
I'll pay you for watching.
sitting apart in cafeteria settings and constructing fictional narratives around classmates that they were unaware of.
At school, before I was homeschooled, like middle school, elementary, I would look at these kids, like at cafeteria, at lunch was like my playground, like my brain's playground. Like there's so many different kids, and they're all doing something different. I would just sit there and I'm a people watcher.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. Any nigga that's wearing leather jackets and overly big cargo pants, can't trust them, bro. I'm gonna be honest. And he got the your age cut. Oh no, Celeste was his little sis.
Respect them, like write about them and stuff like that. And I kind of brought these characters to life that were inspired by my classmates. So every time I would write like a short story, I'd have these different classmates in these stories, and they would never know. It's like different names and everything, but they were inspired by my classmates.
This preference to observe people and create these stories an early marker that he had a natural tendency to see people as subjects for analysis.
I don't judge him though. I'm gonna be a watcher too. I'm a people watcher too. Now I'm definitely a people watcher. Like if I'm in public, like say I'm with like a homeboy or I'm with a girl or something, we in public, and I like the people watch with my guys or with someone I'm comfortable with, because it's like that's kind of fun. You know what I mean? But like I'm not thinking like, oh nah, bro, I want to kill somebody.
Rather than reciprocal social
I'm just the type that, like,
combined with his bullying in New York, it suggests he felt more inclined to exist on the edge of social bubbles rather than in them, present but not integrated, watching but not connecting. He says he began writing poetry in 5th grade and pursued anime, gaming, and creative fiction from a young age.
Oh my gosh, that's another thing too, bro. People like David make anime look weird. Oh my gosh. Like, when people say anime nigga, you're gonna think of a nigga like David, because it's just like, bro, it's just weird, bro. Like, he just makes it look weird, bro. Like, now it's like, might have to be ashamed of saying I like anime now.
I really just liked anime, gaming, and poetry.
Because of this guy.
I remember reading my first book.
And Rage. Okay, don't compare your Rage to freaking David now.
Tokyo Ghoul.
Calm, bro. All anime is weird, but all anime watchers aren't.
And that inspired me to start writing and write my own
like
Naruto.
But just in case his parents couldn't give him any more reason to resent them, they took him out of public school, the only place he was getting any sort of socialization, the place where he was letting his imagination run wild, and they instead placed him on an isolated homeschool curriculum.
Transitioning from public school to homeschool is tragic. The first 2 years was tragic. Like,
tragic.
I was asking to go back to school almost every day. My brother too.
Was the decision to move from public schooling to homeschooling a difficult one?
Did you see they was hating on David Brother?
It wasn't mine, it was my parents. So there's two different types of homeschooling in America. There's like
public school and NYC
homeschooling, where parents that don't want their kids to be in public school environments, but they still want them to be in social groups. So they have like, you have homeschool kids that meet once a week at a specific place, and they play like extracurricular activities like basketball and stuff like that. So
yo, if I was in NYC and the public school, y'all think I'd be the cool kid or not?
Strictly on computer. That's what I did.
They didn't let him enroll on the socialized model involving group meetings with peers,
I think I'd
but
be
a fully
like
computer-based, home-based program with no structured peer contact whatsoever. From a developmental psychology standpoint, this is the most significant single environmental factor in his profile. Erickson's 8-stage model identifies adolescence, approximately 12 to 18 years old, as the critical period for identity versus role confusion, the developmental task of forming a stable, coherent sense of self through peer interaction, social experimentation, group belonging, and the feedback of others. Removing a child from that process during its peak window doesn't simply slow development, it redirects it, and they don't develop normally. And the main damage that came from that cutoff was socializing. None of his peers stayed in contact with him following the transition, and he was all alone.
I thought I had a lot of friends in middle school, and then after being homeschooled, nobody's hitting me up, nobody's asking me like, where am I at? Why am I not coming to school today? It made me question like, what is a real friend? And do I have any of those?
This nigga a dork, bruh. By the way he's talking, bruh, you should know this nigga a dork, bruh. Like, you should know this nigga's weird and a loser. Like actually, bro. Like, there's no way, like, niggas ain't see the signs, bro. If I was tapped into David, if I knew who he was, bruh, I would have been known this nigga was weird. I would have been exposed this nigga.
As well?
I would fix your nose
when I was
with my
transitioning
fist.
from public school to homeschooling, and nobody like hit me up on Snapchat when I was like streaking everybody. My Snap score was like 250,000.
Yeah, like, I feel like no one talks to anyone every day. Like, let's really think about it. Like, I don't talk to my friends every day. My IRLs, I talk to them like a couple times a week or a couple times a month. Feel me? And then, like, my niggas, like my niggas online. I mean, I don't talk. Well, I kind of almost talk to Max and y'all. Oh, I talk to y'all every day in GC, but like, individual, like, you know what I'm saying? Conversation, we probably talk a couple times a week. Zoe, we talk every day and go to sleep on. Yo, stop exposing, bro. Chill.
What hit you back?
Chill.
Nobody.
We talking Zotoofly GC every day. I guess like you're
nobody
in there.
Like,
they kicked you. I ain't kicked you. I don't know why they
nobody.
I still don't know
did
why
I really
they
have friends? And you start to question things.
Oh,
like,
totally.
About your everyday life. It's like who's really there for you at the end?
I mean, dude, homeschooling really takes a toll on a kid. Like,
isolation.
That's high point.
Yeah, and there's outlets like I made a couple friends now that were homeschooled, but they had like these groups that they would go to like bi-weekly and just to socialize. But I didn't have that.
Yo.
Like,
David would start to feel a growing disconnect between himself and his age mates, and an acute awareness of experiences that he was excluded from. I've gone through his TikTok, and this was clearly what hit him hardest. He was emotional seeing homeschool proposals.
My homeschool
He has another post
bro,
titled What It Felt Like to Be a Homeschool Teen, and I won't play the audio for copyright reasons, but the lyrics go, everybody's falling in love and I'm falling behind, as he visibly shows his frustration at that fact.
I don't judge
he missed
him,
out on having high school relationships, but had to watch everyone else get to have one through Snapchat. His former peers got to post relationship quotes.
Nah, okay, I'm not gonna lie. Homeschool, I never experienced it personally, but like, you're kind of shunned away from society, so you can't. This nigga dead look like your age right here, but nah, you're shunned away from society. You don't really talk to people. You don't have like any social interactions with nobody. So you just shunned away from the world, bro. So of course you're gonna grow up being a freaking loser, like, you know, y'all twins in this flick. I guess,
with
bro.
Their partner,
just say we both black and you're racist.
Unable to do anything.
He look like
but
young
watch.
Mike Jack.
As the caption says, homeschool and being on social media 24/7 was not a good mix. In another post, he says his superpower is never being able to express my feelings properly because I was homeschooled and had no social life for 5 years.
Jeez,
and on another, he says, I was homeschooled all my life. I never got to experience any school dances. When adolescents are denied normal peer socialization, the need for connection and belonging doesn't disappear. It finds alternative channels. In David's case, that channel was the internet, specifically Fortnite, YouTube, Discord, TikTok, and eventually music. During his homeschooled years, David describes Fortnite as his primary social environment. He engaged in squad fills, which is where you're allowed to join games with strangers and talk to them if you have a headset and mic. And he allowed people to vent their personal problems to him.
Especially being homeschooled and not having a social life, right? So I'm on the game, I'm talking to all these random people, and they're talking to me about their life problems, you know, using video games to escape the real world as much as I am, and then living my life vicariously through them, and like writing songs about their lives.
I would go on Discord, and I would go on Fortnite, and I would go on like squad fills, and I just let people talk to me and just tell me about their lives. Because like most of these people that play video games the same way I do, they're going to it as an escape. So I was just being an open door and an open outlet for like my peers and my friends to kind of just like vent to me about different things in their like personal lives and stuff like that.
And I'm like 15, 14 at this time, so I don't know how to like be a therapist, right? But it's like I'm taking this information and all these different people talking to me about different like problems and situations. I'm like, wow, this is really what humans are like. Like, these are humans.
The fact he says, wow, so this is what humans are like, these are humans, tells me that this was the only way David was understanding human psychology at that time. This is a clinically unusual developmental pathway. Normally, an adolescent's model of human behavior is built through direct, embodied, reciprocal experience, like friendship, conflict, romantic experience, loss, etc. But David built his model of human psychology through a parasocial and semi-anonymous listening role, absorbing other people's problems through a gaming headset. This produces a specific kind of social intelligence, highly observational, empathically competent on an intellectual level, but fundamentally disembodied. He understands humans like a researcher understands subjects, not as a participant understands his peers. And that's going to be significant when evaluating his later relational behavior. So he was chronically online, seemingly addicted to video games.
Yo, what if a nigga in Zotoofly, like, God forbid, but a nigga like Zotoofly end up being like a loser type nigga like this, bro? Because some of these niggas dead be online school, bro. Not going to school, missing experiences IRL, asking niggas to stream all day. You know? That's kind of scary to think about, bro. Bro, Nixie, you're one of them. Hot Wing, you're one of them. James getting money.
Alone that much allowed him to stumble across much worse vices. Later, in his own Discord server, David disclosed a sustained pattern of consuming gore content beginning at approximately 14 years old, following the accidental exposure to a cartel execution video. Gore is real-world violence and injury, fully uncensored, including death and murder, and he was discovering that and watching it repeatedly at 14 years old. He describes a progression from initial shock response to habituation, saying, "It got to the point where I don't even cringe when I see it anymore," to then developing a dissociative response, claiming he started laughing at one point, but then escalated to deliberate intentional use. I watch gore to disconnect the part of my brain that feels empathy to the wrong things. We have something called an amygdala, which generates the brain's threat and disgust response.
Y'all ever had them niggas in middle school who used to like watch gore, watch niggas get their head chopped off, and then like show you? I used to be like, bro, I used to see like niggas in my middle school. There's one white boy named Devin. I'm name dropping, don't care. There's one little white boy named Devin. This nigga used to show me like gore videos on his phone. Like niggas getting their head chopped off and laugh at it. I'm like, that's not funny. It's weird. Some white people joke.
Violence. Repeated exposure to graphic stimuli triggers habituation and desensitization. In simpler words, the threshold for what makes the brain want to cringe and look away rises because the stimulus is no longer threatening due to seeing it so much. What David describes in his Discord is consistent with this process in adolescence, whose prefrontal regulatory systems are still maturing and therefore less equipped to contextualize and contain the desensitizing effects. But what distinguishes David's disclosure from typical adolescent experimentation is that last part. He doesn't describe watching gore for entertainment or shock value. He describes it as an emotional engineering exercise, a deliberate attempt to modify his own empathic response. This level of intentionality about emotional desensitization in a 14-year-old is far from typical and represents a significant clinical signal. This would have been a major warning sign and red flag that David was gaining the ability to care less about human life.
He's talking about sissy.
During that same isolated period, David developed
facts. Like if I see a video like on Twitter of somebody dying, I can't watch it. But like if it's like a TV show, I know it's fake. But if it's a video online and it's a nigga dying and I know it's real, it's just, I don't know, it's just different, bro. It's just different.
An elaborate alter ego he called Itami, a Japanese word meaning pain.
I have this alter ego named Atami,
Not even TV?
which means pain in Japanese, and I'm heavily
I
inspired
can
by
watch
like anime
TV,
and
'cause I
stuff
know
like
it's
that.
fake.
But that character that's
I don't
in
really
the
watch
music
a lot
videos
of shows
I
with
make
murder
now
in it.
was actually an idea that I had years before music even started, when I was writing my first comic book.
When ZTF
And it
sub,
was
I
this
think Nixie do.
detective that would solve his own crime. So
Yeah,
he was the
yeah,
good
yeah.
guy by day, and then at night he'd kind of
Mirror, just
transform
text.
into this alter ego and then commit crimes he'd solved the morning of.
But Atami isn't
That's
this
bad.
artistic, creative concept he's
Nigga
come
said,
up
"I
with.
effing kill
David
you."
described it in multiple
Who does this guy
interviews
think he
as a
is?
character he intended to develop into his
Who
own
does this
manga,
dude think he
one
is?
who was explicitly him, a detective who committed murders
You said
and then
NPC?
investigated them
Bro,
himself.
duh, bro.
Big part of that manga was an evil version of me, an agent of chaos and kind of my alter ego. And there was an evil version of myself that would kind of come out at random moments, kind of like Fight Club with Tyler Durden. And he would commit the crimes that I would have to solve as the detective. So like when I was as the detective, I'd be like solving murders that I'm committing myself.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This is a kind of like not on no weird junk. Not on no weird junk. But this is a cool concept for an anime. Like this is like a real show. That would be tough. But the fact that this nigga came up with it and he did that is weird to me. And I have a theory about this dude, bro. So the fact that he killed Celeste, cut her up, and put her in his freaking car, Moonlight kind of low-key, he put her in right. He put her in the front of his trunk, and he left the freaking car there. I think the nigga wanted. Thanks for the sub, my nigga. Love you too, bro. Thanks for the sub, my nigga. Thank you, bro. But look, so I think he killed her. He cut her up, put her in the trunk, right? He left the car there on purpose, bro. I think he wanted to get caught. I think the nigga wanted to get caught. I think he wanted to get caught, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Cause it's like, if you gonna murder somebody, why would you leave the car there with the body inside the car? It don't make no sense.
That there's a difference between normal fantasy and what
reason.
David's
I think
doing.
he wanted to get
We
caught.
all might fantasize here and there, maybe about obtaining a certain level of wealth or driving a certain car or whatever you guys care about. Escapist fantasy uses fictional scenarios to temporarily relieve stress and provide alternative experience. The psychological concept of fantasy elaboration, however, involves constructing increasingly detailed, immersive internal worlds in which the individual places themselves, not a character, but themselves, and which begin to function as a parallel framework for understanding identity and relationships. David explicitly inserted himself into this narrative. He is not the author of Atami. He's Atami's counterpart. They share an existence. He later described Atami as
the one that is weaving his way into my...
Atami is his alter ego? I guess? It's a little weird. That's a little weird.
Relationships and ruining them and inducing trauma and things like that.
This language suggests that the alter ego had become a psychological container for the parts of himself he wished to disown but had not eliminated.
That's weird.
David transitioned into music accidentally in late 2021 after copyright strikes on his gaming content prompted his mother to suggest he create original music.
I started making music in like December 2021. I used to be a Fortnite YouTuber, bro. Like, it's so crazy. Only reason I started making music is because my videos got copyrighted, because I was using like Scissors music, Justin Bieber music, all that. And my mom was like, yo, if you're getting copyright strike, you're not making no money, make your own song. So I was like, bro, I could probably do that.
Because of his ability, I know he's able to play and do, so I said, just make your own music.
This breaks my heart. Yo, how y'all think his parents feel about this guy? Bro, imagine you raise your son. He's an internet sensation. He making money. He doing his thing, chasing his dream. Then you find out this nigga's a pedophile and killed a little girl and cut her up in pieces and put in like... That's so heartbreaking, bro. I won't even know how to feel.
And that was that.
So I kept doing it, kept doing it.
Her age. There's
and then
no
it kind
way.
of just became this thing where the music was getting more
I know her
popular
parents
than
did, but no way.
videos. My SoundCloud numbers surpassed
him,
my Fortnite videos.
Oh, definitely. You see how much of a loser he was?
He had no prior musical ambition.
This is a dork.
What he did have, though, was years of accumulated internal material. The Atami fantasy, the observational psychology built through online listening, the poetry he had written since 5th grade,
I'm not gonna
and
lie,
a
the
set
fact
of
that
emotional
he made
themes
this
like
song on
isolation,
BandLab, that's
romantic
crazy.
destruction, duality that had no other outlet.
That's-
Music gave
that's
that
crazy.
internal world a public form. It also gave it a socially legitimate one. Dark themes that are wrapped in musical craft don't register to us listeners as warning signs. They register as artistry. The same content that might raise concern if it was in a journal or a private communication is celebrated when it has a compelling melody.
So died.
David's own statements confirm that his early music was not drawn from lived experience, but from imagination and preparation.
When I write music about heartbreak and the sad type of things, I write it not from experience, because I was really homebody, I was homeschooled, like I didn't have much of a social outlet like that. I write it in like preparation. I feel like when you commit to love, you commit to devastation as well.
I think it's a mixture of like trying to figure it out myself and then looking at other people's experiences. I mean, 'cause I've never experienced like true heartbreak either. So I write all these songs in preparation for it, so I'm not devastated, you know?
Yo, chat, y'all ever got y'all heartbroken before?
He describes writing about heartbreak in preparation, having never experienced it. He states directly, I love over-dramatized themes of romance because it would never be like this in real life.
I love over-dramatized themes of romance because it would never be like this in real life, so it allows you to like have more room to play around.
The thematic content of his early catalogue in 2022, like Bleed Out in March, Dirty Secrets in May, Romantic Homicide in July, centers on romantic destruction, hiding dark secrets, killing a romantic partner, and feeling no remorse. Romantic Homicide's central lyric, which David explains in detail in a Genius interview, is constructed specifically around the active first person, not just you died, but I killed you. He stresses the first person agency.
Which was in the back of my mind, but then you think that I'm gonna say you died, but I say I killed you. So it's not like the thought of her is gone by itself was something that she did, it was something that I decided to do. And I killed her in the back of my mind.
He also describes the back of my mind as the location of this act, which is precisely where he has told us that his fantasy lives. His mother's reaction to Romantic Homicide is very ironic, but also significant.
He definitely needs to be in a psych ward.
And she was like, that song's too violent and too sad. You're not releasing it. My son is not gonna be talking about killing people in music. And I was like, I'm gonna take that as a challenge, low key. I played it for her in the car, and she was like, David, this song is too violent. You're talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son.
My thing is, like, what changed them to the point where it's like, okay, I'm gonna kill this little girl. Like, what in your mind? I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but like, what was the switch that flipped for him to where it's like, okay, I like little girls and I want to kill her? Like, that's just crazy.
I was like, wait, I might be onto something.
Bro, you're a
she identified something real in the content. He overrode her objection anyway and released it. And that song was the one that became his commercial breakthrough. The commercial success of Romantic Homicide is a pivotal moment in the psychology trajectory. David didn't receive any social correction for expressing violent romantic fantasy. He received validation, streams, a record deal with Interscope, and multi-million-dollar career momentum.
I get the first email from the labels.
Since he was in high school?
I showed him. I'm like, all right, my mom has to hear about this now. I was like, there's no way I can like sweep this under the rug. I'm getting really famous right now. And then
he said he knew her since she was 12.
With Interscope, who I eventually signed with, and I mean, my team Local Vision for management that I signed on management. And then at that point, it was just time to push the button.
From a behavioral reinforcement standpoint, this is near optimal conditioning. The behavior, which was externalizing dark fantasy through art, produced the outcome most desired by someone with his developmental history, which was belonging, recognition, status.
Nigga like me ain't never gonna have no manager, nigga. I'm ZTF, nigga. I don't need nobody, nigga, but me, nigga. I don't need nobody but nigga, man. Like, I'm ZTF, bro. I don't need nobody but me. I don't need no manager. I don't need no creative director. I don't need no stylist. I don't need no nothing. Facts.
And the experience of being known without truly being seen. Because not only did he blow up in music, but that coincided with social media things like TikTok, where he got tons of engagement. But looking back on that, those fans were engaging with someone who wasn't even their true self. And he never took the mask off.
I got me as the artist, David, D4VD, Itami, which is the antagonist. He was a blindfold. My gaming character is coming soon. He is like the one that's super tech savvy and stuff like that. And then my social media persona, which is also being built out as we speak. And that's the 4.
He constructed an entire identity architecture around himself with those 4 defined personas: David the artist, Itami the antagonist, a gaming persona, and a social media persona, none of which were David Anthony Burke. The actual self was not among them. What researchers describe as identity.
I got 4 different personas too. I got Zotoofly, I got ZTF, I got Lorenzo, and I got the demon. You don't want to see the demon.
He diffusion, where the boundary between constructed persona and authentic self becomes genuinely unclear, appears to be happening here. The masks were not overlaid on a stable self, they may have become the primary mode of self-experience. So David from early on learned how to switch between characters. In private, he could be this antisocial kid with dark fantasies. In interviews, he could sound smart and sophisticated. And on TikTok, he could do his best to be relatable and goofy to his audience. That ability to switch became something that we now potentially know might have helped him deal with the consequences of his future actions.
I'm good.
According to prosecution documents, David and Celeste Rivas Hernandez first made contact online in January 2022 when she was 11 years old and he was 16. This reportedly happened on Fortnite, which would be consistent with how David got his social interaction when he was homeschooled. The prosecution documents confirm a physical relationship began in November 2023 when Celeste was 13 and David was 18. So they knew each other online for almost 2 years before ever becoming intimate. This is purely my opinion based on available context and evidence, but I don't believe David sought out Celeste in a predatory form, looking for a minor specifically because that's
you are fed. And it's a little girl, bro.
What physically attracted him. The fact he was only 16 at the time and was being homeschooled makes it completely plausible that the relationship began as some kind of intense online
No 16-year-old is gonna be friends with an 11-year-old, bro. Like, that's kind of like weird. Like, when I was 16, I wasn't talking to no 11-year-old as my homeboy or homegirl at that. Like, that's just odd. That's not normal or plausible, my nigga. I was homeschooled. I'm not touching kids. I'm not touching kids. Like, I'm saying, bro. I'm not gonna lie, this guy behind the screen might be a David. You hear him? You hear what he's saying?
Companionship, where he was just happy to talk to someone.
I guess you're not friends with 14-year-olds. There's a difference between friends with my calm and a nigga just like, I'm connecting with my calm, bro. There's a difference. This nigga's dead just like friends with the 14-year-old just to be friends with a 14-year-old. A little odd,
of
bro.
His concerns. I believe they started off as friends who confided in each other, made jokes, and wasn't started off in any inappropriate nature. What changed it is the question. The evidence that the prosecution ran forward documents a pattern that David was grooming Celeste in stages that got gradually more intense. The first thing he did was make her feel special. He released a romantic homicide music video on Celeste's birthday. He then recorded a song titled Celeste in December 2023, expressing deep personal obsession, and he continually maintained her presence in his Discord server. The song Celeste references the girl with my name tattooed on her chest, a detail that subsequently materialized in reality when Celeste had his name tattooed on her finger and shared it in the Discord server in July 2024. He also never publicly posted her.
I mean, yeah, but also it's like, this society, bro, you know how many people are freaking pedos and got exposed? So, like, when people see that, niggas will be like, oh, nah, he's a pred. But sometimes it just don't be like that. It's like, it's weird, bro. It's weird.
Social media.
This is disgusting, bro. He got a little girl holding his face.
But would post pictures where she's present but not identifiable, or captioning posts referencing having a girlfriend to show his fans he was in a relationship, which gave his romantic music credibility. Another thing he did was use financial control. Prosecution documents confirm that after Celeste's parents removed her phone from her in February 2024, David drove to Lake Elsinore where she lives and paid a classmate $1,000 to provide Celeste with a new phone he had purchased so that they could maintain contact. This was done after law enforcement had directly informed him that she was a 13-year-old runaway. Despite her parents and law enforcement trying to stop David from connecting with her, he chose to go around them anyway. He then isolated her from her family and support system.
So she got her phone took and he went up to the school and paid a nigga a band so he could keep talking? Bro, what?
Debate on whether Celeste had the best home life in the first place, but David definitely capitalized on that and took advantage of her vulnerability. Throughout 2024, the prosecution documents confirmed that Celeste spent significant time at David's Hollywood Hills residence, accompanied him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas, and was repeatedly reported missing by her family. This pattern of running away is consistent with successful grooming. The victim's primary attachment has been displaced towards the perpetrator. David had become the new safe place in her eyes, which is really sad to think about in hindsight. Another thing David...
reason why people are pedophiles, I'm not gonna lie.
That's another thing. I don't think porn should be accessible for anyone. That's not normal. Watching two people have intercourse is not a normal thing, my nigga. Should not be on the internet. Wait till I find out that half these pedos get away with this because the Romeo. Yes, bro, the freaking 16. He's 16 and 18. So the Romeo and Juliet flaw, I'm allowed to date her, bro. It's still, you're still a pedo, bro. How do I tell you, bro?
Desired.
I don't care, because I think in Ohio, the age of consent is like 16. You ain't finna see me talking to no freaking 16-year-old. Nigga, no.
Was surveillance and control.
Weird.
It could be for humor purposes, so take it as context rather than fact. But in January 2024, after they'd started a physical relationship, he posted a TikTok with the text on the screen implying a partner telling him that she will swallow an AirTag so he gets to know her every move. It seems playful on the surface, but with the context we have, he's describing a desire for a constant location surveillance over a minor. On January 11th, 2024, David did a Twitch stream, but he had Celeste in full view of his audience, right there in plain sight.
I know I'm a sophomore, but these freshmen at my school bad as hell, but it's a 1-year age gap, so Ian really seeing what's bad about it.
Nigga, it's a 1-year age gap. Why you try?
He was wearing a hoodie and glasses to perhaps conceal suggestions at her age, and they seem to be doing a cooking stream.
Season it? It's already seasoned, but it's Alfredo.
I'm yet to find the full stream, but something gets said beforehand, and the comments start saying things like, "Pray for his career, chat. You're done for, bro. Nah, you going on the Epstein list. There's no..."
These dudes knew.
"Escaping this, bro. Caught you."
Wait, these dudes knew. These guys knew. Look at this.
"You in 4K. All messages that allude to the chat realizing that David is a allegedly.
They know.
David reads these comments out aloud and questions Celeste. "Are we done?" To which Celeste says, "We need to delete this."
Pray for his career, chat. Are we done? Are we?
We need to delete this.
Are we? Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? Can we
Man, what?
delete? Can we delete anything? You done for, bro? Y'all are not done? Now you gonna Epstein? Yo, wait.
You see the instant panic in David because he's tried to keep this relationship a secret, and this was the closest he'd gotten to being exposed.
Like
the chat continues with David like and Celeste Island trip and David Epstein flight list. But something...
David... That's not funny, but like, come on, bro. David Epstein flight list. Like, come on, bro. Like, alright, bro.
Something else gets said, and David puts his hand firmly on Celeste's shoulder and says, "I media trained you." To which she replies, "No, you didn't."
Media trained?
I personally don't.
Yo, I media trained you.
When we get clicks on.
He says that's controversial, and she questions him with something that almost exposed his secret to the world.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Like, okay. This ain't raised no alarm. This ain't raised no alarms. This ain't, you know what I'm saying? This ain't, you know what I'm saying? This ain't raised no alarms, my nigga. She just said it. This wasn't no concern for anyone. Like, no one's like, "Oh, why'd she say that?" Bro, what, bro?
No, I need to...
Oh my gosh.
Really good.
Okay,
it's been a good one. Bye.
Bye,
Yo.
Oh my. Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything.
He talking about delete everything.
Everything goes.
She seemingly...
He's dead serious too. He's not smiling.
He regrets saying it straight away, and David ends the stream. Of course, I have to preface that streaming clips get taken out of context all the time. What we don't know is what was actually said beforehand, and the chat could have been referencing something completely different. But what we do know is that David was making attempts to media train Celeste, in his own words, due to him understanding what he did.
Yo, bro. Now, yo, chill, bro. Yo, chill, bro. Chill. But I see what you're trying to say. I see what you're trying to say. You just worded that completely wrong. But I see what you're trying to say, bro. Nigga say you can't come back from this.
Was doing was wrong. This is an attempt at power control.
I see what you're trying to say.
Because by giving her instructions on how to act, she's molded to become more obedient. It's crazy that this Twitch stream is almost a mirror of what the prosecution are alleging David did to Celeste over a year later.
Holy cow.
When he was on the verge of getting exposed, he tells his mods to delete everything. to physically discard of the evidence so that no one can find out the truth. He did what he needed to maintain control over the narrative, and panics when there's a risk of the mask slipping. Prosecution documents state that Celeste and David broke up in November 2024, though text messages confirm a continued contact through to at least March 2025. The documented text exchanges describe Celeste growing distress at the nature of their relationship. She messaged, according to prosecution filings, "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself."
Bro, that's a little girl, bro. No little girl should be texting that, bro. Like, her innocence is took, my nigga. Like, that's just like, bro, that's heartbreaking, bro.
You notice, the prosecution frames this as evidence of David's manipulation. This is because of the context that is supposedly surrounding this message.
That is
the
heartbreaking.
prosecution's argument is that David had deliberately led her to believe that they had some sort of future together, that she was his girlfriend.
This nigga posted on the close friends? He's wilding.
Friend, his partner, someone he was building something with.
He's the same height as this little girl.
Specifically in order to maintain
he got a choker chain. He got a little choker chain on. I know this nigga weird.
Physical access to her and her silence. She was emotionally invested in a future I don't think he actually planned to give her. Now, before we proceed, I have to reiterate, because I know how soft the YouTube guidelines are when it comes to active cases and demonetization, but David is only alleged to have murdered Celeste Rivas Hernandez and has pleaded not guilty. So take what I say next as opinion, as rumors, as theory, but not fact. Because his behavior over 2025, if not guilty of the murder, just looks like normal behavior. But that's also the problem if he is guilty, because only a psychopath could do what's been done to Celeste and go about life as normal. On the night of April 22nd, 2025, prosecution documents describe a lengthy argument conducted over text messages. Celeste had become aware of David's relationships with other women. Although they supposedly weren't in a relationship anymore, this triggered Celeste. And
I also heard? I heard that this nigga, bro, they said he got more minors in his phone. Like, she wasn't the only minor he was talking to.
Threatened to expose their relationship publicly and destroy his music career. His debut studio album, Withered, was scheduled for release April 25th, 2025, so 3 days later. On top of that, he had a multi-million-dollar career, active endorsements, and a world tour booked. The prosecution alleges that at approximately 8:40 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, David ordered an Uber to transport Celeste from her Lake Elsinore home to his Hollywood Hills residence. She arrived at approximately just after 10 p.m. The prosecution alleges that shortly after her arrival, David stabbed her multiple times and stood by while she bled out, making no attempt to call emergency services. At approximately 11:30 p.m., he drove north on the 101 freeway to Santa Barbara County, texting and calling Celeste's phone as he drove, a pattern the prosecution characterizes as a deliberate attempt at a cover story. He returned home early on April 24th, went to a radio interview for the album, and attended the album release party later that evening. The prosecution then documents evidence of David's poor attempt at concealing the crime and dismembering her body, which he then left in the front trunk of his Tesla.
Brooke placed her body in the inflatable pool he'd ordered to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor, and used a chainsaw to cut off her limbs.
Oh my goodness,
surveillance footage confirms David drove his Tesla for the last time on July 29th, 2025, before parking it on Bluebird Avenue in Hollywood Hills and departing for his concert tour. And this is the alleged story we have so far on how David potentially murdered Celeste and then continued with life like nothing happened.
Excuses saying it was her fault. It is not her fault. She's getting manipulated by this grown man.
The following analysis I'll give is based on if the evidence presented by the prosecution is factual and proven, and is just my opinion. But the first thing that I believe to be true is that David demonstrates a dark triad personality. The dark triad is a mix of 3 personality constructs: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, identified in psychological literature as co-occurring and collectively associated with manipulative, exploitative, and callous interpersonal behavior. And I believe all 3 appear relevant to David's documented behavioral profile. Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is characterized by grandiosity, a persistent need for admiration, entitlement, and a lack of genuine empathy. Subclinical narcissistic traits, which don't meet the full diagnostic threshold but are clinically meaningful, are observable in David's behavior across multiple domains. The construction of an elaborate multi-persona identity architecture, the use of a child as a participant in his artistic and fantasy world, the apparent expectation that normal rules including the laws, didn't apply to him, and the documented use of financial resources to purchase compliance from multiple parties, like Celeste's classmates and potentially others, rather than just accepting social or legal constraints. He continued pursuit of Celeste after direct law enforcement contact, despite being explicitly told that she was a 13-year-old runaway, which just demonstrates how important he thought he was. Narcissistic individuals frequently exhibit a belief that ordinary legal and social constraints are obstacles that apply to others, but not them. Machiavellianism refers to a strategic, manipulative orientation towards interpersonal relationships. In simpler terms, using others as instruments towards personal goals, maintaining multiple social presentations simultaneously, and planning several steps ahead in your devious plans. David's documented behavior across the 2022 to 2025 period is consistent with this profile. The staged disclosure of his relationship that was sufficient to lend his music credibility, but not enough to expose it, the financial management of witnesses, the claimed media training of a minor to manage his public perception, and the fake name he used on the Amazon purchases when trying to cover his murder trail. Psychopathy is characterized by reduced fear response, diminished empathy, shallow affect, and the capacity to engage in harmful behavior without the guilt and anxiety that normally regulates such behavior in normal individuals. What's actually happening in the brain is reduced amygdala reactivity, meaning the internal alarm system that makes violence psychologically hard to deal with is significantly reduced. David's deliberate desensitization program beginning at 14.
I watch gore to disconnect the part of my brain that feels empathy to things that goes wrong.
His awareness of this process,
to the wrong things.
Saying, I watch gore to desensitize the part of my brain that feels empathy to the wrong things, and his ability, if the allegations are accurate, to attend a radio interview and album release party within hours of the alleged murder are all consistent with elevated psychopathic traits. The prosecution's timeline describes someone who moved through the alleged crime and its immediate aftermath in a goal-directed, organized manner without visible emotional disruption to his public functioning. He saw the murder and the cleanup as a task to get out the way, rather than a major disturbance to his life. It's important to note that psychopathy exists on a continuum. High psychopathic traits do not predict violence on their own. They represent a reduction in the internal constraints that make violence improbable for most people. You can definitely have psychopathic traits and go through life without killing anyone. But if you had to, or if you believed you had to, it wouldn't be hard for you to mentally process.
Dexter, nigga.
The best way I see fit to analyzing the rest of his psychology is by answering some common questions surrounding the case. The first is, was David born with psychopathic traits, or did the environment shape him like this?
I think
the evidence doesn't support a simple nature or nurture answer, and the research literature on psychopathy doesn't even need one. Studies on antisocial personality disorder, which is the more official diagnosis with traits similar to psychopathy, have found that genetic predisposition is a real factor, but it's not determinative, meaning genes do play some part, but it needs more than that. What the developmental history suggests is that David likely had some dispositional features like his elevated sensation seeking, a reduced fear response, a natural tendency towards social observation over social participation that interacted with a profoundly adverse developmental environment. The isolation he experienced in homeschooling removed the social component.
That nigga got sausage on his pizza. Should have been known this guy's a murderer.
Components that normally regulate and redirect dark impulses in adolescence, such as peer feedback, mentorship, romantic experience within age-appropriate contexts, and the reality testing that comes from genuine reciprocal relationships. Basically, when you're in school and you're weird, people are going to tell you you're weird, and they're not going to be friends with you, and that's going to cause you to not be weird. The gore consumption, the fantasy elaboration, and the emotional desensitization program didn't occur despite his isolation. They occurred, most likely, because of it. Any genetic psychopathy predisposition might have stayed more muted in a more socially connected environment, but David was given 5 years of uninterrupted space in which to develop it without correction. The next question is, if many children experience homeschooling, many children watch gore, and many children watch anime, and they don't become violent, then why was David different?
The answer is my nigga Hot Wing right there, bro. He just described my nigga Hot Wing, all his attributes. Bro, Hot Wing dead might become a murderer, bro.
It's not any single factor, but the specific combination and timing of factors, and the absence of mitigating ones. 3 elements distinguish David's profile from the general population of adolescents who share some of his experiences. First, the duration and completeness of his social isolation was extreme. Not partial homeschooling with peer contact, but 5 years of near total isolation during the precise developmental window where identity and empathy are formed through reciprocal relationship. Fair enough if they let him go to some sports clubs and he got to meet people weekly, that he was completely
bro. How can I
alone.
make this about
Second,
me?
his response to that isolation was not passive, but active, as he built an increasingly elaborate internal fantasy world in which violent romantic narratives were central, and he deliberately used that period to pursue desensitization by watching gore videos. Third, and perhaps most critically, nothing corrected the trajectory. There were no peer relationships to provide reality feedback.
I guess that's
there were no
not her
teachers or
mans,
mentors who intervened. When his dark material reached the public, it was celebrated. When law enforcement contacted him directly about the 13-year-old runaway, he found a way.
David Hermans? I didn't know that. I didn't know she was David gang.
One of those things was obviously all the news that's come out.
She's so bad though.
About David. Honestly, I was trying kind of not to talk about it. I don't know if you guys have seen the details, but it is just like D4VD, the artist. Even talking about it right now just makes me nervous and have like a pit in my stomach. I don't know if you guys have seen
she's some generational talent
and stuff, but it's so gruesome and horrific. And I think just constantly reading those headlines was really getting to me. Like, I was getting nightmares about it.
Be for real. Be so for real. Be so for real. You was getting nightmares, shawty. I freaking I guess, bro.
And just thinking like,
nigga, she was sleeping good in her little $10 million mansion with her little stuffed animals. Like,
this arrested
I freaking guess,
murderer,
bro.
pedophile,
Why are you lying?
Was someone who was in my home, who
he was in her
connected
house.
Me with so many other people. We have so many mutuals, and it's scary that like no one.
David wanted some pokey poo. They didn't want some pokey poo.
Suspected anything like that.
Yo,
and also,
this nigga crazy.
Understandably so, people are like dissecting his videos and lyrics.
Her trailer like a PS5.
And since he had me in one of his music videos, I was like, does that mean anything?
She too old. She dead like 35.
It was really kind of getting to me.
She tried getting his number, but he don't like him.
To be honest, a lot of these things I'm not really sure how to talk about.
He don't like him about
I've
18.
developed a bit of a.
Yo, this girl trying to make it about her, bro. Get in there and make it about you. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, you are not the victim, Pokemon. The freak wrong with you, bro? Oh my gosh, that's her man's though. Dang, Pokey, I can comfort you.
Way around their intervention. The system of natural corrections that normally checks and redirects deviant development failed at every point. Another question is, with his fantasies and music content, did David always have a lust for murder, or did circumstance just cause him to kill in that moment? Neither characterization is fully accurate.
The freak is this visual.
How wild our minds like to run with conspiracy, evidence doesn't support a long-term conscious plan to murder Celeste. There's no indication he groomed her with killing in mind from the outset.
Casanat got one of David's songs.
Is a sustained internal world in which romantic relationships and fatal violence were thematically intertwined, in which he had deliberately engineered his own emotional desensitization to that violence, and in which he had repeatedly rehearsed through his music videos, through lyrics, fantasy, and alter ego construction.
If I remember correctly, she's racist.
Experience.
Nick, you ain't funny.
Of killing a partner and feeling nothing. Whether or not he consciously intended to kill Celeste, he had spent years building the psychological infrastructure that made it executable. The prosecution's alleged motive that he was silencing a threat to his career.
Casanat reacts to. Oh shoot, Casanat got ties to David. Let me see. His brother made music. I heard about that. Bro, trying to get clout.
Whoa.
Wait, why did he get a plaque?
This is not me. This is a plaque from Dave.
This age like milk.
Chat, for those who don't know. Oh my friend.
Okay.
For those who don't know.
Okay. Okay. I'm confused though. Nigga said he don't know yet. Why he get a plaque though?
Highly plausible as a proximate trigger, but the proximate trigger ignited something that had been laid down over a long period of time. A person without that psychological infrastructure, confronted with the same threat, would not have had the same response. They might have offered to talk about things, maybe to pay her off, or something, but not murder. A very common question is, why did he leave the body in his Tesla and then just go on tour?
That's what I'm
Was
saying.
it narcissistic overconfidence or something else?
He wanted to get caught.
There's the theory that he wanted the body to be found so
Yes.
that everyone could appreciate the art of his crime.
He wanted to get
and
caught.
while psychologically intriguing, it doesn't hold up well against the broader evidence. The prosecution documents a person who used a false name to purchase disposable equipment, drove to Santa Barbara County to destroy evidence the night of the alleged murder, made deliberate false statements to law enforcement, and continued attempting to incinerate evidence months later, as he bought a burn cage in July that he didn't end up using.
What?
This is not the behavior of someone
The freak is a
wanting the body
burn
to be
cage.
discovered. It's the behavior of someone who believed he was managing the situation competently. The most clinically consistent explanation is indeed narcissistic overconfidence, a well-documented feature of individuals who combine high narcissistic and psychopathic traits. The belief isn't simply, I am above the law
Imagine
in an
killing
abstract
someone.
sense. It's the
Man, the only way I could kill someone and sleep at night is if I it was out of self-defense. If a nigga trying to harm me and I kill him out of self-defense, oh yeah, best believe I'm dropping bars about me killing a nigga, catching a hat on some Zotoofly junk. But like, if it's like you just killing a nigga, like no, you're not protecting yourself, you just killing a nigga, bro. I want to be able to sleep at night.
belief that the individual's intelligence,
I'm sorry, but his
status, and
mugshot,
resources
bro.
are
He's
sufficient to
chips.
manage any problem. Leaving the car on the street rather than disposing
That
of it
dude
properly
chips, bro.
is a catastrophic
Chips
risk
that
assessment failure, but it's consistent with the same cognitive pattern that led him to go to his radio interview the morning after the alleged murder. The operational logic appears to have been, the car is not at my address, it's a few hundred feet away, I'm about to leave on tour, and this is manageable. He definitely thought that Celeste running away all the time was going to play to his advantage, as no one would be looking for her. But when it comes to dead bodies decomposing, you don't look for that smell. The smell finds you.
I guess it's not a good segment though, bro.
The question most fascinating to me, especially when watching through all of his TikTok videos following the proposed date of the alleged murder, is what allowed him to continue functioning normally after the fact. Several interacting psychological mechanisms are relevant.
You gotta
here.
love UK nigga, bro.
The first is the reduced guilt and anxiety response associated with elevated psychopathic traits. The internal system that makes violent acts psychologically disabling for most people was, in David's case, already significantly reduced through years of deliberate desensitization. The second is compartmentalization, a defense mechanism in which an individual maintains separate psychological areas that don't interact, allowing normal social functioning to continue in one area while extreme events are contained in another. The third is the role of his persona architecture. David had spent years living between constructed identities, none of which were his actual self. Switching to David the artist for a radio interview was not a performance grafted onto a traumatized person. It was, by that point, his default public mode of existence. He was the psychopathic and cold version of himself that night, and switched his persona to David the artist by the following morning. Finally, if the prosecution's characterization of the alleged murder as an act to silence Celeste is accurate, then there was no emotional conflict to suppress. The act achieved its objective. The threat was eliminated. For someone with the psychological profile described in this video, David saw this man was completing a task rather than being horrified at what he'd done. So it wasn't that deep to him, and that's why there were no signs, at least publicly, of breakdown or panic. Now the final two are significantly important to many of you watching. Firstly, was David an actual pedo that would have pursued other underage girls, or was Celeste's age just incidental to timing? The evidence doesn't actually support primary pedophilic orientation as the dominant motivation, as I addressed earlier. However, the pattern of seeking a relationship with someone significantly younger.
My nigga asked, do you support the LGBTQ? Bruh.
From an unstable hope.
Lucy Bedrock gotta be next? Nah, he got a bad Asian John, bro. I don't think he word though.
And therefore highly susceptible.
He do be making like princess music though. So I don't know.
To the power dynamic he preferred is unlikely to be entirely incidental. The specific age of Celeste, 11 at first contact,
I think
13 at the alleged start of the physical relationship, may reflect opportunity and controllability rather than exclusive attraction to an age. Whether he would have sought out other minors depends significantly on whether the control and power dynamic, rather than the age itself, was the primary draw. The evidence leans towards him just preferring the control aspect. It suggests that his targets might have included adult women in vulnerable circumstances, just as much as minors specifically. In simple terms, I don't believe he cares if it's an adult or a minor, just so as long as he can control them. And the final question, if not caught for this alleged murder.
Fang got that, but she looks like a Barbie. She looks like a Bobby.
Would David have
that
killed
song's
again?
not that bad.
On the available evidence, a second murder was not inevitable.
I love hot mom
but the risk
shirts.
profile wasn't
Knowing
known.
he lying,
The
he
alleged
like
murder,
minors.
if accurately
Mink better
characterized
than
by the
Fang?
prosecution, was
Ain't Fang? She looks like a Bobby.
carried out to eliminate a specific threat to a specific goal,
Fang ain't that
which was
bad,
protecting his
bro.
career.
Who the
This is
freak
different
is
from
Justin
the profile of a
Green?
serial killer driven by
Yo, I don't
compulsion
know who
or
you is.
escalating
I can't
fantasy
touch your
fulfillment,
link, bro.
like Ted
Ain't
Bundy,
gonna lie.
Jeffrey Dahmer, and the BTK killer.
W
However,
shot.
supposed alleged murder behavior described in prosecution documents,
She acts
the
like a
methodical
princess.
dismemberment,
She
the ongoing
looks
attempts
like
to
a
destroy
Barbie.
evidence, the continued public functioning, is consistent with someone who didn't experience sufficient psychological cost from the act to be deterred from repeating it under similar circumstances.
This dude talked too
If the career
much.
threat had risen again with another person in a position to expose damaging information, the psychological barriers to a similar
Let's go
response would have been lower the
2
second
times
time, not higher. Basically, if the same situation repeated itself with another girl like Celeste, David would just say, "It worked the first time, so I'll do it again." But I don't believe he'd go around his life trying to find people to murder.
Murder.
So,
He only killed her because she was gonna expose that nigga.
how do we summarize?
Let's fold
David
the
Anthony Burke's trajectory is not the product of a
Never
single
mind.
cause,
I'm gonna make a
and it
stupid
doesn't follow
void
the
joke.
profile of someone who is always going to commit a violent crime. It follows the profile of someone whose dispositional characteristics were given an extreme developmental environment in which those characteristics were amplified, reinforced, and never corrected. The homeschooling decision at 13 was the rupture, not
She's
because it
dead,
was
bro.
inherently abusive.
Wow, what the freak are you talking about? I'm literally reading Mirror's chat. You talk about she's dead, nigga. What are you talking about, nigga?
Because it removed the entire social
extent.
architecture within which deviant development is normally detected
y'all are
and
funny.
corrected, and replaced it with 5 years of unstructured internet
Who's texting
access
me on Instagram?
and internal elaboration.
Never mind.
The resulting internal world,
Dang it.
saturated with violent
was-
romantic fantasy,
was a girl,
deliberately desensitized emotions,
David had that
and a
ZTF
constructed
high
alter
top.
ego
I got
who
a
committed
drop
murders,
fade,
was then
but low key, I don't even got no drop fade no more. Like my junk, since like I got like an afro under my hair now. I don't got no cut. Like now it's just like my hair just existed.
given a commercial platform that celebrated rather
Show the
than
sides right
challenged
now.
them.
You're
The
wild, bro. My
relationship
junk
with
look
Celeste Rivas
crazy.
Hernandez was built on the
I can show
structural
it
conditions
tomorrow,
his isolation
or if I
had
stream
created,
tomorrow.
an online social infrastructure that gave him access
But
to
she
vulnerable
looks like a
people,
Barbie.
a power dynamic he had never experienced in any other relational context, and a fantasy framework that had always positioned a romantic partner as someone he would end up killing. What the prosecution alleges is that when that relationship produced a threat to his survival, both professionally and financially, the psychological infrastructure necessary to respond violently was formed, and the
R.I.P.
psychological
Celeste,
barriers
man.
that would have made most people unable to act on that response weren't. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She was
R.I.P.
reported
her.
missing by her family multiple times. She had reached out to the one adult who was supposed to care for her, and was told that she was wanted, loved, and seen, or at least made to feel that way at one point in their relationship. The prosecution alleges that that same person who told her those things ordered
Bro,
the Uber
Mir,
that brought her
what?
to his door and stood by as she
Bro,
bled out on the
what,
floor
bro?
of his Hollywood Hills home. The warning signs were there, in his music, in his Discord, in his fantasy constructs, in his own words, in interviews, given freely to journalists who heard them as art. The question this case raises, for parents, for platforms, for the music industry, and for the audiences who stream artists without reading what they're actually saying, is not why nobody saw it. It's why, when it was visible, it was so easy to look away.
Dang.
The case is ongoing, and I plan to cover any major updates as well.
Video, bro. R.P. Celeste, bro. Hopefully this nigga rot in jail. This nigga's a freaking dork. Nigga said, I watch gore videos to desensitize myself. Bro's literally psycho maxing. Okay. Alright, Rob. You think it's appropriate to make a joke like that right now, bro?